If it is Kamario Taylor this weekend, it's going to be a tough defense that he's going up against with Missouri. And it's a game where you might see his legs involved quite a bit because of the pass rush that he's going to be dealing with. Let's talk about this Tigers team here. And we'll start with the Missouri offense. So we'll go to the other side of the ball first. Offensively, Missouri, it is all about right now, the conversation, it's all about the run game, and it's all about the quarterback situation. Their run game has been really good this season, over 230 yards per game. And, I mean, in SEC play, how has that continued for them? 183 yards per game in the SEC. Like, yeah, they're still doing really well even in that. And it starts with Ahmad Hardy. That's a guy that Mississippi native that Mississippi State was interested in the transfer portal. And he went to Missouri and has been an absolute superstar. Already over 1,000 yards on the season, better than 6 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns. He is one of the top running backs in college football right now. He does not go down on first contact. He is brilliant at running that outside zone scheme that Missouri loves to build around. That guy is an absolute terror to have to deal with, and he's not even the only good back they have. Jamal Roberts on the year, 538 yards, 6.5 a carry, 4 touchdowns. He has been very good as well. So this is a team that is outstanding at the running back position. And like I talked about, they run that outside zone really well. Outside runs and runs designed to get to the edge, including literally outside zone specifically, have given Mississippi State problems now over these last few weeks. Florida had success with it. Arkansas, Georgia. These teams are sort of starting to get to the edge against Mississippi State, and that is going to be a big challenge for this Bulldog defense. Now, what does change things for against Missouri is the quarterback situation, because they are on their third-string quarterback at this point with Matt Zollers in. That is because Bo Pirbula, who's the starter, got hurt a couple weeks ago against Vanderbilt. The guy who's the backup, I believe Sam Horn, was injured at the beginning of the season on a carry, was knocked out for the year. So they're on a third-string quarterback in Zollers, and he is not the same dual threat that Pribula was. Pribula, pretty good runner. So when you have him and you've got those two backs that you did, they were able to have a pretty formidable rushing attack. They still do, but they're not as dynamic with Pribula off the field because Zollers, again, is just not the same type of a dual threat. You add in that in the receiving core, they got talent in the receiving core, but they're two guys who are, Kevin Coleman, obviously a guy Mississippi State fans know well, and he's having a solid season there. Marcus Johnson, also pretty solid. Brett Norfleet, their tight end, did not play last week, but he's the leader with 5 touchdowns. He's a very talented player to deal with and could be a test for Mississippi State safeties if he's able to go in this game. There's some decent pieces in the receiving core, but the passing game from the quarterbacks have just been so limited. I mean, they're not great in pass protection either. They've given up 20 sacks on the season. This is a team that really everything they do hinges on being able to run the football. But it's gotten tougher again without Pribula out, although they did have a really big game running the ball against Texas A&M. Mississippi State has had struggle stopping the run, specifically outside runs. But, Christian, it feels like State has to do everything in their power to stop the run if they're going to be able to stop this Missouri offense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Missouri offense is based on Ahmad Hardy. I mean, I think you kind of made a point to it there. And look, Pribula, when he's healthy, he's great. Now he's hurt. Matt Zollers. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even gonna try to act like I know that name or anything. So I'm gonna stick to what I know. And what I do know is Mizzou is a run-heavy team. They love this running back, Ahmad Hardy. He's over 1,000 yards. He averages about 6, maybe sometimes 7 a carry. And he's got 12 rushing touchdowns on the year off 172 carries. He's very fast. Once he gets going in a game, it's hard to like you gotta hope that he doesn't get off to a hot start because once he gets off to a hot start, he's gone. And it's just no slowing him down. And I'm not saying that to just like pump sunshine or anything like that. Like he really is that good. They have other weapons out there too. Kevin Coleman at wide receiver. Marquise Davis is another running back. Um, you got Marquise Johnson, who actually is who I'm thinking of, not necessarily Marquise Davis, although he's looked good at times behind Hardy. But anyway, Missouri has the weapons to take care of business against Mississippi State. Are they the team that started the season? No, they're not. I feel like there has been a little bit of regression with the offense. I also feel like you take Pribula out and they're not pedestrian. They don't look worse. They just don't look as dominant. So I feel like for state, it's for Mississippi State, it's like you're trying to prepare for this team this week. You got to feel a little comfortable that it's not your biggest test so far this season, although it is going to be one. Um, you have to make this new quarterback that they have, Matt Zollers. Um, you got to make him look pedestrian out there this week, and I feel like the defense, if they show up, they have a really good chance to do that. But then again, I've said that a couple different times on this show, previewing some different teams, and look where it's got us.
I think it really you force Zollers to be the one who has to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't proven he can do that yet, and I know he's got some talent. He's made a few nice throws here or there, but he has not been the guy that Missouri can just trust to this point. I think his passing chart against Texas A&M in the first half, I don't think he had like one completion that was past the line of scrimmage. And I know that changed over the course of the game, but it still was not a good day through the air for him. What did he end up final in that game? I'm just pulling it up here. He went 7 for 22 for 77 yards. Like that, no touchdowns, no picks. Against Vanderbilt, 14 of 23, 138 and a touchdown. Not terrible, but still not someone pushing the ball down the field. A lot of just quick dump-offs. And again, they had a full game plan with him at Texas A&M. And like I said, they were able to get pressure, and pressure is part of it. We talked about Kelly Jones at the start of the show and how dominant he has been as a coverage player. You have to trust him to take away one of the guys on the outside. You are going to need somebody in the slot. Jerron Manning, if Brian Lanier is good to go, him as well. Isaac Smith, if he's able to go. Dealing with Kevin Coleman is going to be a challenge, right? Coleman is a very dangerous player. And Zachariah Brandt for Georgia, another dangerous slot receiver, gave you problems last week. But I think if you're State, you have to – but Gunnar Stockton's also a better quarterback than Matt Zollers. You have to trust that you can play coverage on the back end. And I think it's a lot of we are loading the box. We are making sure we are taking away the run game as best as possible and not letting them gash us. And when they're in passing situations, we're sending pressure and telling Zollers, you have to beat us. I think State's pass rush has gotten a little bit better as the season has gone along here. I know it's still not great. I mean, Will Whitson is still tied for the team lead in sacks with 2. And he has not played since the first half of the Arizona State game in week 2. So you don't have any one player that's been great. But Malik Silla has gotten better as the season's gone along from a pressure standpoint. So I think this is a game where you put all of the pressure on Zollers to prove he can beat you with his arm. And if he does, well, I guess more power to him, and then you go from there. But you cannot let them get the run game going if you can help it. And you cannot let him have a clean pocket to sit in. It's got to be a big-time aggression from Mississippi State on defense. On the other side of the ball, and this goes back into if Kamario Taylor's your guy, he's got a pass rush he's going to have to deal with. That is pretty terrifying. Missouri, that is the strength of their team defensively, is their pass rush. 24 sacks on the season, so about 2.7 a game. Damon Wilson with 6.5, Zion Young with 5, Khalil Jacobs at linebacker with 3. This is a team that's able to get after the quarterback and has done so consistently well. Last week was sort of the first time they weren't able to get a lot of pressure, and that was against Texas A&M. They didn't get a ton of pressure against Vanderbilt either. So it's not been great the last couple of weeks, but 5 sacks against Auburn, 4 against Alabama, 5 against South Carolina. All 3 of those teams have had issues in pass protection this year. We know Mississippi State has issues in pass protection, and if you don't have Albert Reese, that only becomes a bigger deal. Blake Shapen, if he's in the game, this is not a matchup that is favorable for him, knowing how he's dealt with pass rush. Now, I don't think having a dual threat quarterback automatically fixes it in terms of being able to handle pass rush. Sometimes those guys still take sacks. As I mentioned, all three of those teams, I mean, I know Ty Simpson isn't a true runner. He can run, though, pretty well. But Jackson Arnold, his legs are the best thing he has going for him. Lenore Sellers, his legs are the best things he has going for him. Those guys were able – like South Carolina had 10 sacks – sorry, Missouri had 10 sacks in those 2 games. Those guys are going to be under – whoever's at quarterback is going to be under pressure. But what you hope for is that if it is Kamario Taylor, he can do something with his legs to escape a little bit and make some plays. Overall, though, Missouri has been a good defensive team all the season, giving up 19 points per game. In conference play, that number is under 24, so still been pretty good in conference play defensively. You look at yards allowed, only 270 per game. And again, in conference, 340, so quite a bit more. Obviously, 5.5 yards per play in conference play, but it's still good numbers defensively. They have been pretty solid on that side of the ball throughout the year. I will say, run defense for Missouri the last few weeks, they've not been bad, but they have been gettable. 4 straight games of allowing 125 plus yards, and you've seen that yards per carry inch up ever so a little bit more every single week. Alabama was able to get some things on the ground going. Auburn actually ran the football pretty effectively throughout that game. Vanderbilt, it's a lot of one big run skewing things, but still they were able to run it some. Texas A&M had a couple explosives, but A&M was able to find success running the football. I mean, they ran for 243 yards. So when you run for that much, you can't only boil it down to a couple of big runs. So Missouri, now I will say it's kind of like it is a little boom or bust. Like they'll stop you a couple times in a row for minimal gains, and then you can gash them for a big gain. I think that's going to be a big part of it for State in this game is can you find the ways to maximize those opportunities for explosive runs, which has kind of been State's run game this year is not always being consistent, but at times hitting bigger runs. Or it was more the run game last year, but we've seen that in moments this season. Pass game is kind of the same thing. They don't give up a ton of passing down the field. They have been pretty solid with that overall. And they're only giving up 163 yards a game, but 11 touchdowns to 5 picks, 56% completion percentage. Texas A&M was able to throw the football very effectively. Auburn, frankly, Jackson Arnold didn't have his worst day. Ty Simpson had a ton of success throwing against him. Lenore Sellers had a good day throwing the football. Now, I think it's got to be a lot of underneath passing. I don't think you can attack them downfield consistently. You sometimes can, but they've been pretty solid there. But the last few games I've watched, you were able to get them with quick screens. You were able to get them with underneath throws. I think that's going to be something. Giving Kamario Taylor easy completions underneath and letting your receivers work after the catch is going to be the key. I think there's a game plan here for – I'm just assuming Kamario is going to play. Whether it's Blake or Kamario, it's got to be the same way because it could still be Blake Shapen. More than anything, though, you've got to find a way to protect better in this game than you have.
Yeah, and this offensive line for Mississippi State has had, again, some good moments, some bad moments. I don't think it's a team that's like I don't think it's like the quarterback protection has gotten worse throughout the season or it's gotten better. I feel like it's just up and down, and you hope that the best shows up this weekend against this Missouri defense that's really, really fast, really physical, and dominant up front too at times. And yeah, and like you said, it doesn't matter if it's like we don't know with Shapen, but most likely Kamario Taylor out there. You got to give him time to make throws when he needs to. Let him step up in the pocket and just let him be in command.
And look, I think whether it's Shapen or Taylor, it's kind of the same. So much like I think you're going to need to be able to run the football because you cannot just let this be a game where you're sitting back and throwing 30 plus times. Like this has got to be a game where you were able to effectively run the ball because again, if it's Shapen, he's not built to be in a situation where he's having to sit back with so much of that pressure coming against him. And then if it's Kamario Taylor, like he's not ready to be a quarterback who's slinging it around. Like you have to have the run game, let it be a complement of what you're doing. So State's offensive line, they're going to have to pave the way in the run game, and they're going to have to provide a little bit more protection. And if you're Jeff Lebby, you got to be creative in finding ways to protect your quarterbacks with game plan wise. How do we make sure we're getting the ground game going? How do we create plays in the pass game to get the ball out quick? I thought they did some good things last week on that opening drive with the quick passing game. And, they tried to continue it throughout the game and just really weren't able to because of some adjustments from Georgia. Can that be a part of what you do in this game? That's going to really be big. But look, if State goes out and it's another day where they're giving up a ton of pressure and a ton of sack, I don't care who's in at quarterback. It's probably not going to be a great day for the offense. But this is a game where really the lines of scrimmage are going to be huge. If Missouri dominates on both lines of scrimmage in the run game and in pass rush, they're probably going to win big. I know they're like a 6.5-point favorite as it is. But if you're State and you can sort of slow down their run game a little bit, and if you can find a way to protect your quarterbacks, then I think you got a great chance to go on the road and pull an upset. Whether it's Shapen or Camario, get that 6th win and find yourself going to the Egg Bowl with a chance to make it 7 and get the rivalry back in the right direction. Going to be a big challenge for sure.